President Biden meeting today with Fed Chair Jerome Powell at the White House. Biden also writing an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal promising action on inflation, assuring Americans it's their top economic challenge right now. What can the administration do, though, to calm inflation? Let's ask Brian Deese, the director of the National Economic Council. Brian, thanks for coming on. We appreciate the time. Beyond the obvious optics of it, what was accomplished in today's meeting?
Well, it was an important meeting because it gave the president the opportunity to underscore that he not only respects the independence of the Federal Reserve, but he intends to honor that and give the Federal Reserve the space that it needs to take the actions that it should and use the monetary policy tools that it has to combat inflation without sacrificing all the economic gains that we have made. That is not something that we should take for granted. It's not an approach that the prior president took and prior presidents before that. This president had made clear today that he respects that independence and he intends to keep that. That's important at a moment like this. And at the same time, the president laid out a broader set of actions that he's committed to try to lower prices for family, lower costs that people are facing, as well as lower the federal deficit. Both of those steps would also help a lot. Gave the president an opportunity to outline those as well.
Well, Brian, critics right now are saying that his 3 steps, yes, it makes sense in maybe the medium to longer term, but it's not going to do much over the next couple of weeks, next couple of months when Americans are feeling it on a day-to-day basis. What's your response to that?
Well, number one, we totally get it, what people are feeling, the anxiety and the challenge when you pull up to the gas pump or you go to the grocery store and you see high prices. Number two, there are steps that we have taken and can take that will have really immediate impact. Something like releasing 1 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, historic, important, coordinated with our allies, and help to blunt a further run-up in energy prices. Making internet more affordable for 50 million Americans. That may not solve the whole problem, but for families that are able to get high-speed internet and save $100 a month, that is real. There are other steps that are more medium term. It will take a couple of months to have an impact, but they are really important and we should do them now. Building more affordable housing, building more capacity to produce semiconductors here in the United States. The sooner that we get started on those types of projects, the better it will be for prices, for families, and for the economy at large.
Well, Brian, one thing that the president could do and the administration could do over the next couple of weeks is rolling back the tariffs on Chinese goods. President Biden saying during his trip over in Asia that is potentially on the table, or that he would at least hold a meeting with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen about that. Where do those talks stand?
Yeah, as the president said, it's under consideration. It's something that we're looking at. We'll be spending time on this week, and it fits into a broader strategy around trade with Southeast Asia that the president really pushed forward over the last several weeks. And so tariffs is something we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at it in the context of those broader trading relationships and also, what else we can do in our trading relationships with our allies to help to try to reduce these cost pressures. And supply chains is chief among them. One of the things that we have seen is price increases across the economy because supply chains have failed. And that means that goods are more expensive and they take more time to get to the people who need them. We have a lot we can do to actually help improve the resilience of our supply chains here in the United States and work with allies, particularly those allies in Southeast Asia, to build more resilience in our supply chains as well. So all of those things are focus areas for us, including the tariff conversation.
Brian, in this op-ed in the Wall Street Journal today, the president talks about Americans feeling financially comfortable. He says we're doing this from a position of strength. But today, Gallup shows the economic confidence in this country the lowest it's been since 2009. Only 20% of the country says the economy is getting better. Where's the disconnect?
Well, I would explain it as this. The president gets it, and he said in the same op-ed that he understands that when prices are up, particularly for things like groceries and gas, that it hits people, it makes them anxious. It's something they talk about around the kitchen table. And the president not only gets that, he understands that. That's his lived experience as well. So that's why he has identified tackling inflation as his top economic priority. Now, the question of how we tackle that is important. We should do that while building on the unique economic strengths that we have here in the United States. And it is the case that we have a stronger labor market recovery than we've had in past recoveries here in America. Because jobs are plentiful and more people have gotten to work, Americans have been able to save more and spend and pay down their debts. That doesn't mean that they feel any less anxious when they go to the gas station or when they go to the grocery store. But it does mean that when we think about economic policy, we should try to build on those strengths and tackle prices without sacrificing those economic gains. We have a unique ability to do that in the United States. Our economy has been more resilient through this period. So that's what the president is talking about, is how can we make this transition in a way that builds on the strengths we have while focusing on the challenges that we have, and clearly inflation is first and foremost of those.
So Brian, as we do that, as we do tackle inflation, as the Fed potentially gets even more hawkish, I guess, are you confident that we can tackle higher inflation without falling into a recession?
Look, there are always risks, but what I can tell you is that we in the United States can attack this problem from a position of economic strength, and we can do so with the confidence that we are better positioned than almost any other country in the world right now to actually bring down prices while building on those economic gains. We have more resilient consumers, household balance sheets are stronger, our labor market is stronger, business investment is higher, new business creation in the United States is higher. All of those are strengths that we bring to this challenge. And so if we make the right policy choices and we keep focused on the right priorities, we're confident that we've got a better position than anybody else to try to navigate through to this transition to more stable growth.
And Brian, the president also says we should, quote, end the outrageous unfairness in the tax code that allows a billionaire to pay lower rates than a teacher or firefighter. Is the president considering taxing unrealized gains? And how concerned are you about the unintended consequences of doing so?
Well, what the president has made very clear is that under his tax plan, nobody making less than $400,000 a year will pay a penny more in taxes, period. That's very different from some of the proposals that Republicans have put forward. But he does believe that we can and we should move forward on having the highest income Americans and corporations pay somewhat more through reforms in the tax code that would, for example, establish a billionaire minimum tax. That would mean that billionaires have to pay 20% of their overall income annually in taxes. That would mean that they're paying roughly a similar rate to a teacher and a firefighter paying today. And so
yes,
the economic
you are considering taxing unrealized gains, which we have never seen in this country.
Well, we have all sorts of approaches at the state level and at the federal level as well that have been implemented. The president's billionaire minimum tax proposal is very straightforward. What it says is that you look at all your income, and then if you are paying less than 20% of that overall income on an annual basis, then you would be assessed 20%. We think that that is fair and reasonable, and all of the economic evidence from the tax policy literature suggests that that wouldn't have a dampening impact on overall demand. What it would do is it would increase revenue, allow us to reduce the deficit. And the president, does believe that reducing the deficit can be a part of a rational strategy to try to bring prices down.
Brian, so we're tackling inflation. Another huge issue that President Biden is facing right now is the baby formula shortage. I'm seeing it firsthand. The shelves are still not stocked. Yes, he has started the first operation of Fly formula, but we have a ways to go. What structurally needs to change, and what can the White House do right now to ensure that we're never in this position again in the U.S.?
It's a very important question because this, again, is about the immediate term, but also the longer term. And in the immediate term, we are doing everything we can to increase production, get the manufacturers to increase the production of formula here in the United States. That's happening at historic rates. Bring more formula into the country through Operation Fly Formula, and we will see more shipments and more flights here in the very short term. But over the medium term, we have to tackle the fact that this industry got so consolidated with a handful of players controlling 90% of the market that when one of them went down, consumers were vulnerable and our economy was vulnerable. So we have to look at how do we bring more new entrants into the market so that it is less consolidated, more new startups and small businesses that want to get into this business, how can we make it easier for them to do so? And how can we have a more rational policy for bringing safe imported formula into the country as well? So we're focused on the immediate term, absolutely, and that's what Operation Fly Formula and our production efforts are about. But we should also use this opportunity to take on those medium-term challenges.
Kudos, Brian, for the line of the day, which was, I get to go home and tell my kids that BTS opened for me. You guys are trying to stop Asian hate. Did you get a BTS selfie? And what's your favorite BTS tune?
Well, on the last question, it's got to be Butter. But it was a lot of fun to have them here and to and to follow them in the briefing room. That's not something that you get to do every day, but it was also really good to have them here. It's an incredibly important issue, and I really credit them for using their profile and the platform that they have to give voice to trying to stamp out anti-Asian American hate. It's an issue that the president cares deeply about, and he really appreciates being able to partner with them and use their platform to get that message out.